Hello guys, my name is John and welcome back to my review over the PS Vita. This is part 2. In part 1 I did the unboxing. I showed you what came in with the PS Vita that I picked up. Also talked about the button layout, a little bit more about the PS Vita. This part of the video I'm going to review and show you some gameplay. I'm also going to show you the augmented reality. At the very end of this review I'm going to do kind of a mini rant and talk to you about my own personal opinion about the PS Vita, so you won't want to miss that. Thanks for watching. Let's take a closer look. Now let's turn it on here. You gotta hold it down for a little bit, and you'll know it's booting because you'll start seeing a PlayStation logo like you just saw, like we see there. One thing I want to talk about the battery real quick is I'm kind of bummed out and really disappointed Sony decided to do this. It's built-in battery, kind of like what Apple does with their iPod or iPad. It's built in, so basically you can't take it out, unlike the PSP, and that gives this system a shorter shelf life than it usually would have because the battery can only charge X amount of times, and eventually the battery will die. So once the battery dies or doesn't hold a charge, you're basically left to either get it replaced, and I don't know how much that would cost, sending it in, or you would basically have to buy a new system. So I'm a little disappointed that Sony decided to do the built-in battery. That's definitely a knock. As screen went black, that's basically just going to power reserve mode. If it doesn't do anything for a couple of seconds, it'll go that. Just tap it. When you turn it on, you're going to see the screen here. And to get out of the screen, you just basically you scroll your finger here and kind of just turn the page, so to speak. When you first buy the system, it's going to ask you to do your settings. So as you can see here, I have the date and the current time. It's going to ask you where you live, your settings. It's also going to ask you for a PSN account, a gamer tag account. If you already have a PSN account through your PS3 already established, you just put your email in there, your password, and it's going to automatically sync up to your PSN. So some games in the future coming out are going to be cross-compatible. So basically, I heard like Mortal Kombat, for example, is if you have a PS Vita and you have Mortal Kombat on the PS Vita and maybe one of your friends has it on the PS3, you'll be able to play each other, which is really neat. Some games like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is already out, you actually can play it on here. It's released. It was a launch title for the PS Vita, and you can actually use this as a controller for your PS3, and you can use certain touch features. So there's some cross compatibility there between the two systems. They're kind of merging them closer together. Now Sony could have easily release like an HD cord adapter, maybe something you can put in an accessory and hook it up to your TV. Maybe use this as a system for your TV. That could have easily happened. They did that with the PSP. Unfortunately, I think Sony decided not to do that because they obviously want people to buy both the PS3 and the Vita. So it's obviously a business decision. I can understand as a businessman why they'd want to do that, but as a gamer, it's still disappointing they decided to do that. So to get out of the save mode, you just click the very top. It's going to go here and power on. So you just scroll like this. One thing I also want to know, it is possible to have two PSN accounts on the same system. It's not as easy as you would think, though, and it's kind of a complicated process. When I first started it, for example, when I first signed on, I put in my old email by mistake and my old password for my old PSN, and it was linked to the system. I had to actually clear the memory completely and then reboot it and go online and Google it. It's a kind of complicated process. And then I had to finally put in my current PSN, and it finally worked. So that it's not as easy as a PS3 where you could change accounts very easily. I think that's another knock on the system. The menu screen itself is different. It's no longer the cross-media bar that they had before, like you saw on the PlayStation 3, the PSP. First was started on the PSX, which is, I'm not talking about the original PlayStation. I'm talking about the PSX, the hybrid DVR and PlayStation 2 system that came out in Japan. But this is called Live Arena. It's one word, Live Arena. And there's different apps here. And you can first, let's see, you can go up here. You got Welcome Park. Click on this, Welcome Park, it welcomes you, Park, hello, you click Start. It just kind of gets you used to some of the functions of the PS Vita and kind of gets you used to the touchscreen, and I'll show you what I mean. So you get different tutorials, you can do touch or camera, microphone. Let's do touch, I'll show you what I mean.
Touch the numbers in order, starting with the lowest to make them disappear.
Okay, so you heard the lady. It times you. Sometimes it's not, although it's working now, before it wasn't, see how sometimes it doesn't register the click? It's not always, see how it doesn't, right? even though I'm clicking on it. So it's definitely not perfect. Let's go back to the main menu. Get back to the main menu, you just push this. Go scroll over. See how this automatically, at the very top, you see the icon. That means that application is still open. And in order to get to the application, I just scroll to the right, or yeah, just scroll to the right, and you can just close it by going like that, and it's going to disappear. Okay. You got Party. You can invite people and your friends on PSN to play. You got your PS Store. Let's check out the PS Store real quick. You got Start. On the top left corner here, you see I have an AT&T. That's a 3G. That's my connection there. I'm on Wi-Fi right now. It's also Bluetooth compatible. You get your battery life, your time there in the top right corner. So you get PS Vita games. These are a lot of times you can get demos. You can actually download a digital copy of a game, which I would actually prefer, honestly, if it had a physical, tangible copy. I'd rather have that. You just scroll like this, kind of like you would like an iPhone, whatnot, iPod. You have cross-play games. This is games that are compatible for both the PS3 and PS Vita. Right now, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom, Hustler Kings. Okay. This is PSP games. Now, currently, there aren't any original PlayStation games that are compatible for the Vita. I'm sure they'll come up with a patch. And that's another thing that's a bummer about the system is you have updates. And when I first bought the system, I had to update it. Brand new out of the box, I had to do an update. And it just came out, launched it, do an update. So I'm not a huge fan of updates on 360, PS3, but you definitely have to do updates on this thing too. So it's another knock on the system. But these are titles of games, all alphabetical. You can just download them. Again, if you can just buy the physical copy, that's what I would recommend doing. But that's just me personally. You can go back. You got mini games too. These are just kind of simple games that are maybe anywhere from $2 to $5. Puzzle games, pinball games, etc. These are demos. You can download demos of games and kind of test them out. Free demos, which is nice. Your app store. So similar to like the Apple App Store, you can, right now they have Netflix, Live Tweet, which is like a Twitter, Flickr, Facebook, Skype are going to be two other apps that are going to be available for this very soon. Kind of a social media type deal, and more will be released. You got media. So if you have videos, movies, you can download those to it as well. Although with only an 8 gig memory card, I can't really download many movies or media to it. Although one thing I did forget to mention with the memory card, it starts with 4 gigs. You can expand up to 32 gigs. And of course, the more gigs you get, the more expensive it gets. And, they're a lot more expensive than a typical micro SD card, unfortunately, because that won't work. And you can just search and stuff. So that's kind of neat. They got some cool options there. Go back. Near. Near is kind of like a street pass for the 3DS. You can essentially find what gamers are in your area playing games. You actually locate them. It'll do like a radius and kind of scan for people who are actually playing games right now in your area. You can go to your friends and find out your friends and all that, who's playing what. So that's kind of neat. They definitely copy Nintendo in that sense with the Street Pass. It's called Near. You have friends. You can look at your friends, group messaging, trophies. You can take a look at your trophies. And this is all trophies from not just PS Vita, but also for your PlayStation 3, different activities, whatnot. You got a photo. Now see how these applications are all starting to collect here? You can actually, what you want to do is you can go here and just start closing them out. Okay, so now they're all closed. Let's see, okay, photo. Start. Now here's a photo. This is using this camera right here. See this right here? It's looking at me. You can do narrow or wide in photos. You can also click on here and it will take a picture, or you can use your right bumper or left bumper to take a picture. Click on this. We'll change it to video. Video you can only do in narrow. You can't do in widescreen, unfortunately. That will record. It's kind of weird to record myself recording the recording. That's kind of strange. But you can also switch this. We'll go to the front camera. And again, you can just only record in narrow. You can also look at previous photos and whatnot by clicking there. You go back to camera. And then this is to click it on wide. The quality of picture isn't terrible. It gets kind of blurry when you start moving it a little, you know, but overall the camera quality isn't too bad. Let's go back. You have operator. This is basically for AT&T. Now, I found out the pricing of the service. Here in North America and the States for AT&T, it's for $15. You get 250 megabytes of information download. And for $30 a month, you get, I think, 3 gigs worth of data. So you get significantly more for twice as much, but you know, $30 is a lot to drop every month. So unless you plan on being out on the road a lot, not home, where you have free Wi-Fi, it may or may not be worth having that 3G. Web browser, your typical web browser, it doesn't, right now, currently web browser does not have flash capabilities. So like watching YouTube videos or anything like that, you can't do that. I'm sure they'll eventually come out with a patch to be able to use flash, but right now it's not a possibility, unfortunately. You get music. I don't have any music loaded up, but you can listen to music on here. Same with videos. Remote play, this is, you can actually connect it to your PS3, as I was explaining before with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. You can do that. And I think that's a really, really cool feature. And that's not the very first time that a handheld's been able to connect to a console. I'll leave a question to you guys to see if you can answer it. See if you guys know the answer, post it below. Content manager. You can manage your content, as pretty obviously stated. You can connect to your PS3 system, connect to your PC. You have maps. They have a GPS type system too, where it shows you kind of where you're at. You can change your settings. This is my game right now, having Uncharted. This is Netflix, live tweet. Let's click on, oops. Again, see, I was trying to click on Uncharted and it goes to maps. So, still don't want to click on it. So you can see the touchscreen isn't necessarily perfect. This game isn't necessarily, this isn't produced or developed by Naughty Dog like the other games have been for the PS3. It's made by Ben Studio. They do a decent job. There's some games, I'm only on chapter 8. There's some parts of the game where it utilizes the touchscreen, which is kind of unnecessary. And it's interesting, there is load time. Even though it's on a card, there is some load time. You think it'd be a little bit shorter of a load time, but it's still there. Trying to push the start button. You can see what I mean. It's kind of awkward to push. It's not always very responsive. Now this isn't at max volume. Let's turn it up. You can kind of get a sample for the sound. Puts out a pretty good sound. Obviously, when you use the headphones, it's going to save some of the battery life.
Come on, over here.
So right now I'm at chapter 8. I'm playing through the camera, so it's kind of hard to see here, but you can kind of see the graphics are pretty decent. Almost on par with the PS3. So it's essentially like a portable PlayStation 3, which is cool. Let's go back here. Also below I have some other games, Little Deviants Demo, Cliff Diving. These are all AR games, augmented reality games. And basically what it came with, these cards, and very similar to the 3DS, actually uses. So I'm going to show you some demonstrations of some of those games now. So similar to the 3DS, you have these cards, and it reads the cards are out of range here. And it changes the scenery here. Now if I cover my hand, it's going to be out of range. Kind of messes it up, but it's kind of a weird game. It's supposed to jump. Kind of look it around, change it up a little bit. There's different levels, you get points and whatnot, kind of weird. Tabletop. Pick a card. So that's cool. You can change the different angles of it all. Not quite sure what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to tap it and make them go off. Again, these games, like, I don't know necessarily what, they're just basically so you demonstrate like what the AR can do. I imagine future games they'll come out with some other things that can utilize this. It's kind of neat. So that concludes my review over the PS Vita. So what we learned, and what I went over is we learned the format of the PS Vita. We also learned some of the cons. So let's talk about that real quick. Let me talk about some of the things I don't like about the PS Vita, because there are a few, definitely. Biggest thing is I don't like the battery, the fact that it's built-in battery. That's a huge downer. It's not backwards compatible for PSP games, so it doesn't take UMD games. That's also a bummer, although I think it would have been kind of hard to fit all that together, so I kind of understand why Sony didn't do that. Second of all, the memory card, that's a huge lame thing, man. I don't know why Sony decided to do that. They could easily put internal memory in the system, and it just seems like a way for Sony to make more money. So I understand as a business major, understand why Sony did that to make more money, but ultimately as a gamer, that's a huge letdown. The touchscreen itself, it could be a little bit better. It works, it does its job, but it could have been a lot more responsive. I feel like Apple with the iPad or iPod is definitely, those devices have a better touchscreen, but as far as the HD and all that, I mean the colors and everything else, it's essentially a portable PlayStation 3, which is really neat. And I do like the new menu interface with the apps and stuff. I think over time there'll be more apps available, and I think they're trying to eventually kind of evolve this thing into kind of a smart device, essentially, outside of just a gaming device. One of the biggest complaints I hear about the PS Vita is that it's too expensive, way too expensive. And what's so ironic about it when people say that is because a lot of times they haven't even played the system. It's like, okay, I understand that it's expensive, and I understand that $250 and $300 isn't cheap, and it's not for everyone, to be honest with you. However, it's funny because people don't remember how easily people forget that the PSP, when it came out in 2005, cost $250. In addition, recently Nintendo released the 3DS when it first came out. That was $250 as well, but people weren't really necessarily complaining about the Nintendo 3DS costing so much. There are a few, of course, but I just feel like a lot more people are jumping on the PS Vita, it's a lot more expensive bandwagon, not worth it, you know? And I don't think that's completely fair. And you consider this, keeping this in mind, a lot of the Apple products, the iPad, the tablets, the smartphones, whatnot, a lot of times those things are twice to 2.5 times more than this. So I understand a lot of people say, well, you know, the iPad and the iPod, you can do more. You can listen to music, you can watch videos, you have all these apps, you can walk a dog with my iPad, whatever, you know? That's true. But keep in mind they have apps on there too, and eventually I think this is going to evolve into a smart device as well. So let's give this some time and see how this thing evolves into. I think it could compete with some of these smarter devices that we see. Another big complaint I hear about the Vita all the time is a lot of people say, well, the Vita can't compete with the 3DS. Nintendo dominates the handheld market, and Nintendo for the win, whatnot. And I'll agree, Nintendo does dominate the handheld market. There's no argument there. They have been doing that for years, and they'll continue doing it for many more years to come, I'm sure. Sony, I think, is going to it, not approaching it as if, okay, we're going to go into making the Vita, and we're all of a sudden going to dominate the handheld market. They'd be fools to do that and think that. What I think Sony's trying to do here is they're trying to segment a market, hardcore gamer, and target kind of the luxury handheld gamer market. And I think that's what their goal is on this. Let me put it in an analogy, maybe you guys will help better understand. Imagine you have a Honda and you have a Mercedes. Both are cars, and both get you from point A to point B, and that's your goal. You buy it to get to point A and point B, correct? So the Honda, think of the Honda as the 3DS. It's a good, reliable product. People buy it, it's dependable, they love it, it's affordable, right? For the most part. You think of the Mercedes, okay, it also gets you from point A to point B. Think of the Mercedes as a Vita. Okay, you buy it, it's a lot more expensive, okay, only a small segment of the population probably can afford a really nice Mercedes, okay? It's got luxury items, maybe it's got a DVD player, it's got, you know, all these cool features that maybe the Honda don't have. Do you need these features to drive? No. Well, no, and you don't need a lot of these features to play games. So the ultimate goal when you buy a handheld is for entertainment. That's the only thing that the Vita and the 3DS are competing against, are for entertainment. But you can't compare the Vita to the 3DS as far as handheld gaming systems. It's just not apples and apples, okay? Nintendo's goal, and when releasing 3DS, and same with the Wii, is really target the younger, the casual gamer. Now, am I knocking on people who play 3DS? Absolutely not, because I play 3DS a lot and I love the system. But what I'm trying to say is, a lot of times, of course there are exceptions, because Resident Evil just recently came out, and that's for the more hardcore gamer. But for the most part, games like Mario Brothers, games like Zelda, those are really family-friendly games. Okay, the Vita, on the other hand, is more of a luxury item. You've got features here that aren't necessarily on the 3DS. You've got games here that probably will never be available for the 3DS. Imagine Skyrim being released for the Vita, or Call of Duty, which I can imagine will be released eventually for the system. It's definitely a geared for the luxury, the hardcore gamer. Okay, so keep that in mind. But the funny thing is, you don't hear Honda owners complain about Mercedes being too expensive, because, to be honest with you, they're not looking at the Mercedes. They're content with what they have. So my point is, it's great to appreciate a company. I love Nintendo. I appreciate it. But it's completely another thing to be a fanboy, so to speak, and just say straight out, oh, Sony sucks and the Vita is terrible. Because, to be honest with you guys, keep this in mind as a business major, I know this, competition is good for the market. If the Vita or maybe Apple didn't do any app games, say Nintendo was the only player in town for the handheld market, and the only way you could play handheld games nowadays is through Nintendo, games would be a lot more expensive, games would be a lot more shitty. I guarantee you that. So it's a good thing, and be thankful that Sony is trying to compete with Nintendo here. So I asked myself two questions. Am I glad, or do I regret getting the Vita? The first part of the question, yes, I'm happy. I'm happy with the Vita. I don't regret buying one. Do I recommend it for people? I recommend it only if this is the case. If you like handhelds and you appreciate Sony, I think you should definitely check this out. Looking at Sony's records, also past history, look at the PS3. That was like $600 when it first came out. Now it's dropped in price. Historically speaking, this is going to drop in price. So eventually it's going to drop, and if that's the case, definitely pick it up. If you're more, you stay at home, you like the PS3, wait on it. Don't pick it up right away. Wait till it drops in price. It's probably not going to go anywhere for a while. I hope Sony decides to kind of evolve it. I think there's some things that they can improve on. They'll eventually come out with probably a Vita 1000 or Vita 2000 model, whatnot. But that's my review over the Vita. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Take care.